Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from NewWay888. It's titled Am I the Arsehole for Uninviting My Brother and Nephew from My Celebration Dinner. This originally started back in October 2024, but there are several updates to this and one in 2026 as well, so we're going to be covering every single part of the story. If you want to skip certain parts of it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. So it started in October 2024, and it said backstory. My sister and I, early 30s, have an older brother. He's on his second marriage. His first marriage gave me my nephew, Connor, 15. Connor is autistic. When he was born, my, at the time, sister-in-law's family was the village. My parents were also the village, my sister and I were not. This resulted in many arguments until I told my parents they could either have my brother and his family and I would go no contact, or they could respect my boundaries and I'd still be around. They agreed. Eventually, my brother got a divorce because of marital problems. One of which was his ex-wife insisting that I and my sister step up and help. I felt bad for him, still do, but I wasn't going to change my stance, and my sister didn't either. I've lived out of state for a bit and recently accepted a new job offer close to home. It came with a nice bonus, so I decided to invite my parents, sister, and brother out for dinner at my favorite KBBQ spot. My parents confirmed that it wasn't my brother's week with my nephew, so all was well and good. About a week before I got back home, my brother called and said his ex had something come up and he had Connor the upcoming week, and his current wife was going to be out of town with his sisters. I said no worries and asked if he wanted to call his regular babysitter for Connor and I'd cover it for our dinner tonight. He said no, he wanted to bring Connor to the dinner and asked if we could change the venue because Connor gets overstimulated. I said no, this was my dinner, I'm paying for it, I'm going to my favorite place. He said, "You know your nephew really can't handle a place like that." I said, "Yes, I know. That's why I'm offering to cover paying for a babysitter for that night." He argued that he'll just bring Connor with him. I said he's welcome to do that, but then I'm not going, so it'd just be him and our parents. He told me that was messed up, that if Connor gets overstimulated, he'd just take him and go outside until he calms down. I reminded him the last time we went to a KBBQ place. Connor had a meltdown and they had to leave. My parents always feel bad for Connor, so they usually leave and go to my brother's house to help. I said I didn't want that happening. I wanted to have a nice dinner without having to worry about that. He told me to go fuck myself and hung up. We went to dinner, my sister, my parents and I. My brother did not show up. It was a nice dinner. My parents enjoyed it too, but they said they wished my brother had come. I agreed. They then said that they wished my nephew had come too. I did not agree. I said it would have likely resulted in my brother leaving after maybe 30 to 40 minutes of being there, and they would have followed him too. They agreed, but said I should have let him come anyway and just deal with it. I said that sounds like a good reason for me not to do that, and we didn't talk much that night after that. Am I the arsehole? Edits, somebody suggested I post it here. I've babysat Connor before. Even now I will watch him for a few hours if my brother has to do something. I don't watch him all day or overnight though. It's not his fault and he's in no way a bad kid. However, I had to set boundaries because my parents and brother, mostly his ex-wife, would take a mile if you gave them an inch. They wanted my sister and I to stay local after high school so we could help with babysitting, and I was not about to do that. I did see both of them before I left, since I wanted to, but I did not apologize for wanting to eat at my favorite spot and have done it my way for just one night. Whenever he, my brother, wants to have dinner, we basically go to the same local spot because it's quiet and doesn't upset my nephew, and it's his fixation when it comes to food. That's perfectly fine, and I go to those dinners, but for my dinner, I wanted it somewhere I enjoyed. Future Direction says to the OP, I'm going with not the arsehole. This was your celebration, and you didn't want it disrupted by your nephew who you knew would not like it and would therefore act up even though he couldn't help it. It's like the post where because one sibling only likes vanilla cake, the birthday child can't have a chocolate cake even though it is their favorite. The birthday child has to have a vanilla cake no matter how much they wanted chocolate. Instead, the parents could have bought a vanilla cupcake for the sibling so that sibling wasn't left out. My niece said her marriage had a dairy-free, vegetarian wedding cake. Some of the guests were vegan, some were celiacs, some had nut allergy. So there were cupcakes as well, but they, the bride and groom, could enjoy their wedding cake, made as they wanted it. If a guest couldn't eat the wedding cake, then they had a cupcake instead. Your nephew wouldn't have enjoyed your celebration dinner. You knew that and that he would get overstimulated. You offered to pay for a babysitter. That was rejected. Your brother wanted to force his son into attending an event which would upset him and cause everyone to get upset. Not the arsehole. And many of the comments followed along the same path of basically not the arsehole, some asking questions about the autism, etc. But Opie came in with her first update and said, "First, I wanted to thank everybody, positive or negative, for giving feedback. Whether it was good or bad, I did read every one of them, even the ones who called me an arsehole. Totally valid. While I did see my brother and Connor before I left, it was more of just playing with Connor and making small talk with my brother. I decided today to call my brother to try and get more info and smooth things out. We talked for about 5 minutes before I broached the subject. I told him I was sorry it felt like I was being unnecessarily mean or exclusionary to Connor, but that I felt I had a right to decide how to celebrate the way I wanted to. He said he was sorry that he snapped the way he did, and looking back, he realized Connor would have an awful time, and it would have been a big waste of money for me. The place we went to was about $80 a person, $40 for Connor whether he ate or not. He just really wanted him to be there too. I told him going forward for things like my birthday, I would be more than happy to have a lunch as a family with Connor at somewhere he likes so he can have a good time. Then go to dinner at somewhere I want to eat, and I'd pay for a babysitter or his mum, my brother's ex, can watch him. He asked if Connor would be welcome at the dinner too, and I said I don't think so because I still plan to have KBBQ/hot pot sushi/fine dining, and Connor doesn't do well in those environments, the lights, sounds, smells and atmosphere, which is why I brought up having lunch the day of or beforehand so we can all celebrate and it be okay for him. But I was still standing firm that for my birthday, or something like another promotion, I wanted to go somewhere that I enjoyed without having to worry. I brought up also that when he took us out to lunch, it was once a month before I moved, he picked or my parents picked, and they always catered to Connor. I had no problems with that and attended almost all of them. This time, I wanted something for myself. He wasn't over the moon about it, but said it sounded good and thinks Connor would enjoy it too. He also looked into getting him sunglasses, as one of you suggested, for bright/overly stimulating environments. He then had a question for me, which I knew was going to be asked at some point. Now that I'm closer to home, he asked if I was going to be more involved as an uncle. I said yes, but not in the way he probably wants. I said I'd be more than happy to go over his house and hang out with him, his wife and Connor, and bring food he likes, as well as babysitting him once or twice a month so that he and his wife could go see a movie or have dinner together. But I wasn't going to be an on-call babysitter like my parents are. Several times he's dropped Connor off at their house for a week/weekend with little notice because he and his wife wanted to go on a spontaneous vacation. I told him that was not going to happen with me, especially since I'm in the process of adopting a cat and he and Connor are allergic. I wasn't allowed to have a cat while I lived with my parents' house, which was fine because it's their house and it wasn't fair to my brother and Connor, who were over super often, so him getting dropped at my new place was out of the question. He thankfully didn't press the topic and said it's okay. Mum and Dad don't mind and that he missed hanging out with me and was happy that I could be around Connor more, so everything worked out as well as I could have hoped. I'm excited to move back home in a few weeks, and thank you again for all the advice and criticism. So it was 7 months later that Opie came in again and said, "Hi, me again. Was hoping I wouldn't have to post here again, but well, life had other plans. I, 31 male, moved back to LA from Texas for a new job. My parents live here, as does my brother, 40 male, his wife, and my nephew Connor, 16. Connor is autistic, and while he's made a lot of progress since he was 10, still struggles with a lot of things. He's non-verbal, stims often, and frequently has meltdowns. My brother, his wife, his ex-wife, and my parents are the only ones really able to calm him down. I regularly watch him once or twice a month, so my brother and his wife can go see a movie or hang out. I do not watch him overnight or for several days consecutively, as it's always at their house. After our argument last time, my brother and I had been on pretty good terms. He hasn't really pushed boundaries about babysitting, and we've minded our relationship quite a bit. However, something came up recently that has us on rocky terms. My brother recently got news that he was selected to attend a conference out of the country. The company is putting him in a hotel for 10 days, and while they won't pay for his wife to go, they have no problems if he pays her airfare and everything and occupies the room with him. I'm very happy my brother got this opportunity. The issue is childcare. The conference happens to align when my parents and sister are going to New York City for a week to celebrate my sister's birthday. Nothing is refundable, and my parents promised my sister this over a year ago they'd do this. His ex-wife, Connor's biological mother, will also be out of town for work, so that leaves me. When he called me to explain everything and ask, I told him no. However, I listed reasons for why I wouldn't do it. 1. I live about 90 minutes away. Distance-wise, not that far, but LA traffic makes a lot of things more difficult than they should be. I don't mind making the drive once or twice a month when I'm watching him, but I do not want to make it 10 days in a row. Connor cannot come to my place because I have a cat and he is allergic, as well as me having things around the house that are fragile. I do not work from home and Connor would still be in school, so I would have to likely put in PTO to do it logistically. 2. The longest I've watched Connor was about 6 hours. He had a meltdown near the end that I was unable to calm him down from, and it was only my brother and his wife getting back 20 minutes later that saved me. I cannot picture myself doing it for 10 days straight. 3. This one might sound really selfish, but I don't want to set a precedent. If I watch him overnight even once, I know my brother and his wife would push it on me again. I don't want that to be a thing. I'm happy with our arrangement of me watching him once or twice a month and hanging out with him with my brother and our parents. That being said, I would not hesitate to watch him during an emergency, but that is a totally different story. I explained this all to him. He wasn't happy. He went off on me about how he thought me being back would mean he could rely on me for this. I've said before, I'm not an on-call babysitter, and his wife would really like to go on this trip. I said I'm sorry, but I'm not doing this. I said I'd be happy to go and help her on the weekend he's not here and hang out with Connor to give her a break. But I'm not going to risk my own mental health for 10 days and use 8 days of PTO to watch him for a non-emergency. He had a few choice words for me and hung up. He got my parents involved in the family group chat and they surprisingly were on my side. They said it would be a really nice gesture if I did it, but reminded him that I've never watched Connor overnight and his wife doesn't have to go on this trip. He hasn't really talked to me since. I feel bad for his wife not being able to go, but I also don't trust myself to be able to handle Connor for 10 days. Am I the arsehole? And absolutely for me, this is still not the arsehole in this situation. I think Opie's been pretty consistent all the way through this so far, and also been really reasonable at every turn. He offered to pay for a babysitter. He's proposed a 2-day birthday event so Connor could still be included, which I thought was a wonderful idea. He started watching Connor once or twice a month, and he chose to do that. And now the brother has the audacity to be angry at him when he's asking him to do something that's pretty unreasonable. Like it was said, this isn't a family emergency. It seems to be like a work perk that the wife doesn't have to take. And Opie also hinted at some stuff that, maybe he wouldn't be able to handle an overnight. He's never done an overnight before, and there was a meltdown that he was trying to handle once, but couldn't at the 6-hour mark. And I think Opie was absolutely right about, setting a precedent, because it already seems like the brother tries to take advantage of situations that he always asks for more. I mean, he's doing it right here. Opie has offered to babysit to give them time to themselves, and they still ask for more. And many people in the comments just telling Opie to hold on to their boundaries and that the brother is wrong in this situation. But Opie came in 6 days later after that post and said, first, thank you to everyone who provided advice. I really appreciate it, and it helped know that I wasn't out of line. I messaged my brother. I said he has 2 options. Either he or his wife stay home and watch Connor, or he works with the local agencies and care facilities. I apologize if I'm not using the right terms. To get respite care for him as long as they are gone, and I check on him during the weekend. I would not be watching him, and I will not hear him out in regards to that. He called me and his wife got on the line and said that I know how she feels about other people watching him overnight, and how his mum feels too, and she's never been to this location before and it's on her bucket list. I said I'm aware, and that I'm assuming in that case she'd be staying home with Connor, and maybe she and my brother can take Connor there in the future. My brother tried to interject and I cut him off. Said I really don't care what he has to argue, I'm not here for it. As some of you suggested, I again pointed them towards local organizations and government entities dedicated to helping parents with children with special needs, but didn't really get anywhere. I was really burnt out over everything, so I said good luck with the situation and hung up. I made a group chat with him and his wife and told him that going forward I'd be visiting them once or twice a month, meaning one of them has to be there when I'm there. I'm not watching Connor alone anymore. I feel like this is a good compromise, letting me still hang out with Connor and also not being a caretaker. I told him that maybe in the future we can work back towards what we had before, but not anytime soon. They both wrote back paragraphs on how they were sorry, but they had no other choice and thought maybe I'd do it for them, that this could be like a second honeymoon for them, and to please keep watching him for a day or two a month, that they'd even pay me for it. I told them no amount of payment is worth it. It's not fair to me, it's not fair to Connor, he's not my son, he's theirs. That they need to start working with agencies now and get him accustomed to care and other people watching him, because our parents are getting old and soon they won't be an option. My brother responded that he and his wife will start the process and get his ex involved too. But if that doesn't work, what are they going to do? I told them that it's on them. I'll happily join them in researching organizations and benefits, but if they have an inkling in their head I'm going to do for them what my parents do, they're out of their minds. His wife asked if I would consider getting training and learning how to care for Connor like they do, and I shot that down. I'm more than happy to be the fun uncle that drops by and hangs out, but I value my independence and I won't let that be compromised. Both of them eventually just gave me a thumbs up emojis. His wife said she was going to stay home with Connor and not go on the trip, and said they'd see me in 2 weeks to have a hangout. We'll see what happens then, but at the very least I'm not on the hook for watching him, and someone that can calm him is. I will do my best to keep pushing to expand their circle and seek out other options and programs that help them with Connor, as I think that would greatly benefit the quality of life of all of them and prevent a situation like this from ever coming up again. So it was 3 weeks later that OP came in with their next update and said once again, thank you for all the comments and advice. They are all greatly appreciated. I went to hang out with my brother, sister-in-law. I realized it was strange to call her my brother's wife the whole time, and Connor over at their house. My brother ordered pizza and he played with Connor while my sister-in-law and I hung out in the living room. My sister-in-law surprisingly apologized. She said she was very sorry with the way she was acting. She told me how, coming from the Midwest and her family, she's an only child, she was very used to seeing aunts and uncles take her and her cousins for a few days or weeks when parents had to do something. That they'd do sleepovers and the like, and always had parties at different relatives' house pretty regularly. She thought that based on her friends and how their families did roughly the same thing, that it was very commonplace. She did not expect me or my sister to rebuff that kind of relationship and be so against it. She said she understands now she was trying to force what she thought was normal, and she'd do her best to respect my wishes going forward. I thanked her for that. My brother came in with Connor, and while Connor was playing close by, my brother said he and my sister-in-law planned to go to therapy to come to terms with Connor getting older and start planning for the future. He said it was stupid to think our parents would be around forever, much as we both wish that. He's hoping in a few months they, my sister-in-law and Connor's bio-mum, will be comfortable enough to start leaving him overnight at respite care and with individuals trained to handle kids like Connor. My sister-in-law joked that she hoped that in a few years, maybe they could all go to the destination my brother was going to. I was happy to hear that. I told them I'm really happy they are moving forward, but I also wanted to lay out some things I want them to know. I'd be happy to go with them to check out care facilities and assisted living. I believe that is the term. Facilities that Connor may go to when the inevitable happens. I'd be happy to, if something horrendous happens, make sure that their assets and savings are used to take care of Connor and his needs. I'd visit Connor at said facilities when he's there. I would not take on any kind of caretaker role now or ever. That is not something I want to do. If they ever try what they tried recently or attempted to broach the subject again, I would go low contact or no contact. I said this more politely than I wrote it, but that was the gist of it. I will accept being called an arsehole for this, but I took some of your advice and spelled it out for them in case they weren't getting the message. I would never let Connor end up on the street. I also would not let him live with me, and I would never be his guardian / adopt him. I'd make sure he is with people who can handle and care for him the right way. Both of them took it pretty well, and were happy to know that I would make sure that I'd execute their wills correctly if it came down to it. My brother apologized again about the last argument. I told him I accept his apology, but politely to never ask me to do that again. I reminded him that his dream was to be a dad and have a family. My dream was to travel the world. I'm going to start doing that soon. Probably week-long trips at most, but that I wasn't ever going to sacrifice my happiness and youth to be a caretaker. I love Connor, but he's my nephew, not my child, and that I love him, my brother too. But there are certain things I draw the line at. We hugged it out and had a good rest of the night. So that's that. I'm really hoping that they keep to their word. I'm so emotionally drained from all this that I honestly don't think I could stand another situation like what happened prior. But here's to baby steps and small victories. So OP came in with what was titled their final update. It came 8 months from the previous one, and it started, "Good. Both my brother and sister-in-law and my former sister-in-law caved in and were able to make peace with Connor going to respite care. He's doing very good at it. Bad, back to no contact with any of them." So a lot happened. After a few months, my brother and sister-in-law and my former sister-in-law got on board with respite care. It wasn't particularly easy for any of them, and Connor did not take well to the first few attempts, but thanks to some really awesome staff and caretakers, I apologize for not knowing the right term, he was able to be left in their care for a few days, then up to 2 weeks. My brother and sister-in-law were pretty nervous at first, lots of phone calls to check up and whatnot, but they've been able to go on a few trips they've been wanting to go on. I was pretty happy for them. Connor also had been a lot better overall. They said he's still likely never going to be able to live by himself, but he throws far fewer temper tantrums and overall is just pretty much non-verbal with a few stims and habits. Additionally, my parents sold their house and moved into a retirement community, where they also seem to be really enjoying themselves. Now, the bad. My uncle had a Christmas party that a good deal of the family was invited to. My brother and sister-in-law and Connor couldn't make it, nor could my parents. I went and had a good time. During the party, another uncle we'll call Jeff came up and asked if I could watch his daughter Stacy, 16 female, for a weekend while he and his wife go to an adults-only wedding in another state. He and his wife are somewhat overprotective when it comes to Stacy, but just in the we don't feel comfortable leaving her alone for the weekend, versus being complete helicopter parents. Stacy is a good kid. Outside of calling My Chemical Romance dad rock, I said sure. Stacy was there and I told her we could go to Disneyland for one of the days and she's welcome to bring a friend. My treat. She was very excited about that, and honestly, me too. I hadn't been to Disney in a few years now. Good stuff. So I thought. The next weekend I was over at my brother's place to drop a few things off and hang out. I told him and sister-in-law that I wouldn't be coming by on that particular weekend because I'd be watching Stacy for the weekend, but I'd come by the next weekend. He said sounds good, but sister-in-law got quiet. She said, "Oh well, you can take Connor next weekend to Disneyland too. I think he'd like that." I said no. My parents took him to Disneyland once when he was a few years younger and left after about an hour. They said it was a miserable experience for Connor and he was super overstimulated. I told her if they ever want to go to Disneyland, I'll happily tag along, but I'm not taking Connor with Stacy and I when they haven't even taken him to Disneyland and see how he acts. I said it's not fair to any of us to be on the hook for that. She blew up. She went off on how he's gotten so much better, how he's so better behaved and has a ton more coping skills. I said I know. I said I was proud of her and my brother for getting him where he is now, and that I laid down last time what I was willing to do. Taking him out for the day without either parent was on the not willing to do section. That's that. She went on ranting about how I'm a horrible uncle and it's a good thing I don't have kids. I said I agree on the not having kids part. I don't think that's something that I'll ever be in my future. I like kids. I couldn't imagine raising them myself. She called me a few expletives and went into their bedroom and slammed the door. I asked my brother what the hell was that about. He told me that she's in a few groups for parents of kids with autism, and they've been shaming her for having uninvolved aunts and uncles, my sister and I. I asked him what the fuck they meant by that, and rattled off everything I had done for Connor, be it financially or anything else. He said he knows, and he brought up that he told them and her that, but they seem to zero in on, they don't babysit, do they actually love him? Even her own family has apparently given her grief for the fact that my sister and I don't babysit or take him on outings or have him over. He didn't defend himself, but he didn't condone them either. I asked brother to brother if they were in therapy for all this. He said yes. She really loves him and Connor, but she's also a big people pleaser and has a lot of family values that aren't being met. He said she got really sad that my parents sold the house because now they can't host Connor anymore. They still visit and see him a few times a month, but it's not like before. I asked if there was anything else he was comfortable sharing. He said their sessions just usually devolve into hounding him to ask me and my sister to be more active. I was shocked. I brought how many times I've said I'm not doing that, and my sister has gone essentially low contact and no contact, and she still is bringing that up. He said yes, she's never going to be happy unless she has that. He begged me to come around. He'd pay me, he'd pay for my time off, he'd move closer to me if that's what it would take. I said no, none of that. I'm not doing any of that. I told him I thought we, him, my sister-in-law, me, had an understanding about what my role was going to be. That they promised it was going to be okay. He was in tears saying, I know, but, and went on about how it would make her world if I could just go do some of the things she is asking. I knew it was a lost cause. I gave him a big hug and told him I'd always love him. I went to go hug Connor too. I told him that I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. I can't keep getting flooded and hounded by these requests. It's not fair to me. I asked that they both no longer contact me. I let my parents know anything important and that they would relay that to me. He was on the couch, stunned when I left. I felt horrible, but thinking about being asked to do that again and again was something I couldn't imagine going through again. I called my parents and told them what happened. They were upset but understood. They were very unhappy that she kept pushing when she said she'd stop. I told them I was getting a new number and to please not share that with them. I also said I do not mind if they bring them up in our conversations or mention them, as I don't hate them, but asked that they not broach the topic of reuniting or talking again. I don't think that's something I can mentally handle. To be safe, I called my housing office the next day and asked if I could break my lease and move to a different complex they own in a different part of the city. They were thankfully very understanding and had no problem with it. So that's it. I'm happy Connor is doing better now, and my brother and sister-in-law can take trips on their own, with him being taken care of. I'll probably take a trip to Europe this summer to clear my head. I really wish things had worked out differently, but in the end, all of you were right. It was never going to be enough for them, and it took me going no contact for them to stop. I really hope they do okay in the future. I'll always love my brother and Connor, just going to have to be from afar now. Also, Disneyland was a blast. Holy shit, Galaxy's Edge was amazing. Still can't stomach how expensive it's gotta know. So people were asking OP comments on the back of all of this. Someone says, where is sister-in-law's family in all this? Surely her family's village should be the ones meeting those expectations she's arbitrarily set. Another one replies saying sister-in-law is the stepmother. Her family is not related to Connor. Opie says they are in the Midwest. They refer to where we live as California and won't come out here. She's okay with that, but me being unwilling to babysit is apparently a huge deal. Commenter says, he told me that she's in a few groups of parents of kids with autism and they've been shaming her for having uninvolved aunts and uncles, my sister and I, and then says, wow, those are support groups. Damn. Sister-in-law will never learn until she can get everyone to drop their boundaries to her requests, and your brother sadly won't get a spine to stand up to her properly because unfortunately he feels the same as her. This is definitely the best outcome. Opie says, from what my brother said, most people in the group are really nice and supportive, but there's a few that really play on the family helps family no matter what, that were in her ear about things. The commenter says, I would go no contact for now, but I have to say, I do feel bad for Connor. He's taken his parents' punishment as well, and that's not good for anyone. I would say instead of going no contact with Connor, still visit him at the respite with a member of staff there if it makes you feel comfortable. Even if it's just for 10 minutes or once or twice a month, He shouldn't have to suffer from his parents' actions. It's not his fault. He's been put in the middle of all this. Take some time away by all means, but don't go no contact with your nephew just because your sister-in-law can't take no for an answer. You don't have to see his parents if you don't want to, but it's not nice knowing that your family members are not talking to you and you don't know the reason why. As for your brother and sister-in-law, whatever happens in their relationship is between them, but I wouldn't give up hope on your brother just yet. It sounds to me like he's being controlled by his wife. Maybe someday he'll realize what it cost him. The marriage might not even last. I'm not saying it will, but who knows? No one has an idea of what the future holds. Why not have a think about it first and focus on yourself? Take a trip to Europe and in the meantime, try doing some things that make you happy. Opie says I've been no contact for about a month now, and it's been the best feeling ever. It hurts not having my brother and Connor in my life, but I don't think I could do what you're asking, as I asked to be removed from everything regarding his care. Commenter says this whole situation is so sad. I've been following your story from the beginning and I'm sorry it came to this for you. You said your brother and Connor's biomum split because she wanted more involvement from you and your sister. I think that's what's happening in this marriage too. That would explain why your brother seems so desperate, even offering to pay you, to just do some of what she wants. Clearly he accepts your boundaries, but I think he's afraid to lose another wife due to the same issues. It's very sad all the way around. I really hope this can be mended someday because it sounds like you're going to miss your brother. Best wishes. OP replied quoting that you said your brother and Connor's biomum split because she wanted more involvement from you and your sister, and then says yes. She comes from a different culture where it is very much everyone is the village mindset. What my family is, don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. My parents obviously would enjoy if I was more involved, but they have learned that was not going to be the case and were happy with whatever I was willing to do. A downvoted commenter said to OP, "You are not wrong. Your brother is in a near impossible situation. Your sister-in-law is in a bad, supposedly, support group. That is not what they are supposed to do. They are to vent, to listen, to give personal testimony, and to give suggestions and problem-solving coping mechanisms. Not to become a gang mentality of what's wrong and right for others. It's destructive and breaks people's tenuous perspective. Sister-in-law is grieving the child she didn't have and the circumstances surrounding that. She's lashing out at what she wishes possible, even though it is an unattainable goal. It's no one's fault. It's actually quite common in high-stress caregiver situations. You need to keep in contact with your brother. You do not need to do anything, but every once in a while, listen or tell him a joke. He's in the weeds. She needs help. Not you or your sister. A therapist designed for this. She needs to move towards acceptance." Opie replied saying, "Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to do that. He really, really loves her, which I am not saying is a bad thing, but is going to devolve back into trying to please her. I left the line open to hear things from my parents, but I'm not going to be getting involved in the future. This is the happiest I've been, and it feels like an enormous weight has been lifted off my back. Might be an arsehole move, but this is the peace I haven't had for 10 plus years." Then one more from OP on his future and having visits with Connor at the respite care and says, "I'm likely going to be taking a job overseas within the next year or so. My parents are aware. I think starting fresh is the best thing for me to do. I'll be sending stuff to my parents to give to him and my brother and sister-in-law. But as much as it hurts to say, I don't think my brother and sister-in-law will take what I do seriously if I still have any interaction with Connor." Bloody hell, that's quite a tragic one in the end, isn't it? Because for me, OP seemed to be doing everything right. He set his boundaries early on. He was talking to them, telling them exactly how he feels repeatedly and not being cruel about it. Just, these are my boundaries. This is what's going to happen. But he actually increased his involvement when he moved back. He was doing monthly visits, covering the babysit costs, just showing up. But it always felt all the way through that none of it was ever going to be enough. And it was interesting when hearing about the sister-in-law, she came from a culture where family involvement is, it's kind of assumed, I guess. And it sounds like she married into a family where it isn't. And rather than kind of accept that over the course of the years, she found a support group that was validating it and almost like allowed her almost to like double down on it. And I really did feel for Connor in this situation as well. OP stepping back from Connor, but I kind of get what OP's saying at the same time. It was good to see that Connor seems to be doing better, that he has this respite care, fewer meltdowns, and is coping more. But I think OP said it all in the end, in that, you know, he just feels 10 times better than he did before. And maybe that fresh start is just what is needed. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.